Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Simply Anonymous podcast. I hope you're doing great and fantastic. Today, I want to talk to those of you who are anticipating marriage in your own lives. Now, let me give you a backstory as to why I wanted to touch on this topic. So, over a year ago, a close guy friend of mine and I were having our normal coffee time, and you have to understand that him and we have a brother-sister type of friendship. So, him and I basically talk about many different topics. And on this particular day, we were talking about marriage and dating culture in today's world. And as a close friend, I also encouraged him to be intentional with his time because I do know that he wants to get married, and yet he stays in his house pretty much all the time. And I know some of you may be raising your eyebrows at this point, but don't, because in true friendship, there is a time and place to encourage your friend rather than telling them only what they want to hear. I don't know about you, but this is me. I don't want my sincere and true friends to only cater to my itchy ears and tell me what I want to hear. I do want them to be honest with me, but that's me. Anyways, how my friend responded was what was surprising to me. He basically tensed up and he told me very directly yet very respectfully never to bring that topic up again. And I was like, okay. But he could tell by the look on my face that I did not quite understand why. So he, went on to tell me that I can't understand because I am not a man living in today's culture, that women are very mean, they're very selfish, they're very greedy, and they are very harsh. And that if you are not in the top 5% of men, you shouldn't bother. And at this point, I'm like, wow, his analytical brain is clearly on overload because he's got the math dialed down to like 5%. Months passed by and YouTube recommended this dating video for me. And it's a podcast that touches on dating life pretty much, and it is hosted by a guy, and I am not going to give you the name, okay? But I was listening to it, and right off the bat, like, this guy started talking about how women today are all trying to go for the top 5% of men. And at that point, I was like, bummer. My friend did not come up with the top 5% crap thing. And that someone else out there is running this narrative. So now I'm honed in because I've never heard much about the top 5%. And some of you may be like, you're so behind culture. You can relax because at this point, I am way caught up with culture. Okay, so let's continue with the top 5%. I started listening to this podcast, and after that, I was like, wait a minute, who is the top 5% now? So I started doing like research, and I was like, wow, you have got to be kidding me. Like, am I supposed to laugh? Like, this is fluffy stuff. Like, the top 5% is based on looks, money, social status, and social skills. And I thought that is very shallow. Like, that's my 2 cents. And I had to take a moment to let that sink in. I'm like, yep. People are shallow. And I was also like, why so stingy? Like, can we at least bump it up to 50%? Can women be interested in the top 50% of men at least, And at this point, I'm thinking this top 5% thing, somehow maybe there's a board that passes the certificate to men, like, this is for you, you're in the top 5%. This is for you, sir, you're in the top 5%. Okay, that does not exist, okay? This talking point is coming from men who, most interestingly, seem to think they are the top 5%. And I'm just going to leave it at that. But to me, I was like, that is so sad. Like, you have these big social media platforms, and then you send a certain message, but you don't think how it's going to be received. You don't think how it's going to affect the listeners. I do understand if you want to challenge men to better themselves. I absolutely understand that, because men or women, there's always room for improvement. And so I totally get that, and I'm for that. But how you say things really does matter. Because if it comes across as condescending rather than constructive, your message is unnecessary. So listen, I don't know if you're like somebody who think you are in the top 5% and you're walking around telling everybody that you're this top 5%. I don't know if you've got your own insecurity issues that you need to work on. But what I really do want to address, though, and talk about a little deeper is, first of all these things, right? Like the money, the looks, the social skills, the social status, like that is very subjective. I get to tell who my top 5% is. Like, if we start with looks, we know that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? You may think you're a hunk, and I might quite think that you're the opposite. So, Same thing with money. Like, to somebody, $250,000 a year is fantastic. To some, $75,000 a year is a win. Like, money is not the only important thing. Now, is money important? Yes, we live in a transactional world, and I am not a dummy. Most women will tell you that they are interested in responsible and reliable men, and rightfully so, because you, as the leader of the household, men, you are responsible for bigger things, and you are responsible for putting food on the table. I know that there are exceptions, but for the most part, that's how it usually works. And so, yes, the money thing is important, but there are things that are more important than just money. And yes, I do want to point out that we do live in a culture that is about consuming many materialistic things, and people can get very shallow. And there can be statistical facts that show that there are plenty of women parading the globe eyeballing the bling bling. But there are also plenty of women who are, no offense, wiser than that, and who understand that life is deeper than any bank account. Money does not make you rich. Who you are is what enriches your life. I know that is my 2 cents, that is my opinion, but I'm sticking with it, okay? And I think that if looks and money is all you can bring to a relationship, that is very cheap and also very much replaceable. And yes, in this podcast today, I have mentioned 4 main metrics by which culture today defines the top 5% of men. And I'm sure there are many different metrics that culture uses as well. So we'll stick with the top four, and let me touch briefly on social status and social skills, because I think that most people will say, well, those are not that subjective. But I will say they are, though, because not everybody wants to be with a yapper. Not everybody wants to be with a chatterbox. Not everybody wants to be with someone who high fives the entire room. Not everybody wants to be with someone who's goofy. And when it comes to like social status too, not everybody fantasizes being on a yacht floating around. Not everybody wants to be in a penthouse overlooking the city. So you get my point. Now, I do want to address the singles out there, men who want to find a wife and women who want to be found. Now, if you are a Christian, I think that it would be great to perhaps ask yourself the question, why do you want to get married? Now, in the book of Proverbs, chapter 14, verse 8, it says, the wisdom of the prudent is to give thought to their ways, but the folly of fools is deception. In verse 12, it says, there is a way that appears to be right. The point is, it is good for you to understand why you want what you want. Do not simply want to get married because you are afraid that you are going to be the last one standing, or that you are simply fantasizing a wedding. Cross-examine your heart. Cross-examine your motives. Cross-examine your thoughts. Cross-examine your desires. Talk to elders who are wise and understand what it is that you're getting yourself into. In the book of Proverbs, chapter 11, verse 14, it says, for lack of guidance, a nation falls, but victory is won through many advisors. I understand that that verse is related to nations. However, does that wisdom, that logic, and that reasoning apply to marriage? Absolutely. Now, many people do not understand what marriage is all about, and that is why the rate of divorce is through the roof. People think they can simply enter into a marriage and ace it without ever preparing for it, without ever studying for it. Now think about taking your test, whether it's school, whether in the college. Now, can you imagine going to take your test and blanking? Like, obviously, it's not going to take a genius to tell you that you are not going to pass and that you are not going to graduate. If you want certain results, you are going to have to put in the time and the work to see those results. So while you're single and waiting, that is honestly the best time for you to prepare yourself and to understand what marriage is all about. Stop scrolling from one dating app to another. Stop hopping from one date to another. Stop wasting time. Instead, start counting time and start investing in it. Surround yourself with wise and mature people, elders from your church. Have meaningful conversations with the people you admire and whose lives you want yours to look like. Stop listening to silly content, even though they are popular, and then only to question yourself why you are walking around like an Eeyore complaining that there is a shortage of men or that all the women are eyeing the top 5%. You are going to look silly if you look up to these silly content. Instead, as believers, women, remember that you are pearls and you are valuable. Men, you are called to be leaders, so do not back down. And as you find yourself in this waiting season, Start learning to drown out the noise. Be confident and be grounded in God's word. Let that be your foundation. And do not let the comical talking points, do not let culture tell you you are not in the top 5%, or if you are a woman that you are scrambling for the top 5% of men. Be realistic, be practical, be around people that you would like to attract. Enjoy the season of your life as you learn to grow and go in depth, because that is your responsibility. You are responsible for your own growth. And above all, guard your hearts. May the good Lord himself bless you. I hope this podcast today has been fun for you. Until next time, thank you.